Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Genesis 4, verse 8. And Cain said to Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. This verse records the first murder in human history, yet Scripture leaves the actual words of Cain unspoken. This omission becomes a mystical void, an intentional silence through which the Zohar and Midrash reveal the depths of jealousy, free will, and the dark outcome of spiritual imbalance. It is the moment where spiritual collapse becomes physical violence, and the other side gains its first true foothold through man. The first phrase we have, and Cain said to Abel his brother, the speech that was not recorded. The Torah leaves Cain's statement unfinished. The Zohar says this is not a scribal error, but a mystical ellipsis, a blank space reflecting the disconnect between outer speech and inner intent. He spoke words of peace, but in his heart was a sword. Kabbalistically, this concealment signals the presence of duplicity. Cain may have spoken calmly, even kindly, to Abel, but inwardly he was already aligned with the other side. The lack of recorded dialogue shows the disintegration of communication. He was no longer in truth, but in manipulation and deception. Several midrashim attempt to reconstruct the lost conversation. Includes one says Cain provoked a theological argument questioning God's justice. Another says they quarreled over inheritance of the world. And a third says they fought over a woman, possibly their sister, whom both desired. Each midrash reveals the layers of motive beneath the act: greed, lust, pride, but all agree the argument was an excuse, not the true cause. The root was spiritual jealousy. Next we have the phrase, and it came to pass when they were in the field, the place of isolation. The field is a recurring symbol in Zoharic literature, representing the domain of free will, earthly struggle, and the place where the animal soul operates. He led him to the field, that is, to the place of the shells, where judgment has no restraint. Unlike Eden, the field is unguarded. It is the realm of spiritual vulnerability, where external forces have access. Cain leads Abel away from sacred space into the domain of danger, a premeditated act. The Midrash notes that Cain deliberately brought Abel to the field, away from family, witnesses, and sacred proximity. This shows that the act was calculated. He chose a place where no one would stop him. This teaches that sin often begins in the heart, but waits for an opportune setting to manifest. Next, we have the phrase, Cain rose up against Abel his brother. Rebellion against the image of light. The word rose up implies more than movement. It implies rebellion, overturning divine order. The Zohar teaches that Cain did not simply kill out of rage. He sought to erase Abel's light, to eliminate what his own soul could not attain. He slew not a body, but a mirror that reflected his own lack. Abel represented sincerity, alignment, and spiritual acceptance. Cain could not tolerate that reflection. His act was a metaphysical rebellion against the divine image within his brother. Midrash says that Cain did not know how to kill. He beat Abel's body in many places, testing what would end his life. This reflects the rawness of evil's first act, not skilled, but relentless. It also shows that once sin is unleashed, it becomes cruel and excessive, beyond reason. The last phrase we have, and slew him, the fall of first blood. Cain's act opens a gate through which death enters the human realm. Until then, death had no power over man. Abel's murder becomes the template of all future violence and the other side's first harvest. With that blood, the earth was stained and the gates of exile opened. Kabbalistically, Abel's soul ascends as a martyr soul, the first tzaddik to be killed for righteousness. His blood enters the supernal chambers and cries out through the generations. The Midrash says that Abel's body lay unburied and Cain didn't know what to do. God had to send birds or animals to show him how to bury his brother. This emphasizes Cain's spiritual disconnection and lack of remorse. The Midrash also teaches that Abel's soul ascended straight to heaven. He became the first human spirit in the upper worlds. Kabbalistic archetypes, Cain and Abel as forces within us. Zoharic mysticism treats Cain and Abel not only as people, but as spiritual archetypes within every soul. Abel represents the part of us aligned with truth, humility, and surrender. Cain, however, represents the aspect that desires control, approval, and domination. Their conflict is eternal. It plays out in every moment where the soul must choose between purity and pride, between service and self-glory. To summarize, Genesis 4 verse 8 records the first murder, but the Zohar and Midrash reveal it as a spiritual collapse, a turning point for all mankind. Ultimately, this verse teaches the danger of unchecked ego, the necessity of internal mastery, and the eternal inner war between the Cain and Abel within us. One seeks to dominate, one longs to serve. Who will rise and who will fall depends on which voice we feed. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your donation. Be blessed, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode.